Hello, everyone. It's another Sunday evening, and I am Musaiwa Mesale. You can call me Uwa if you don't want to bite your tongue. I'm happy to be here again this Sunday evening, and thank you to everyone that's watching. I see six people already logged on, currently watching us. Thank you, everyone that has logged on. Tonight is going to be an interesting night because we've been talking about, as you already know, this channel is for love, friendship, relationship, lifestyle, all those conversations that has to do with these things. We talk about it here on the show. So tonight I'm going to be having an amazing person. But before I let the cat out of the bag, for those that have not seen the flyers yet, we're talking about the concept of being in love. We're trying to break down this concept of being in love. And of course, again, you know, I would always go to Google. And I thought to share some signs to show that you are in love. Signs to show that you're in love. The first is you are being open and honest. The second is you trust. Third is you're interdependent on your partner. Fourth is you're committed. The fifth one, you'll have the feeling of contentment. Sixth is sharing the load. These are signs that tells you you are in love. But I'm not the expert here. So I brought in my friend and my sister, Tosin Sani, who has gone through her own journey of love and relationships. And she's joined me live today from Lagos. Thank you so much, Tosin, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Uwa. It's such a joy to be here.
I am super excited to be having this conversation with you because, again, for those that do not know Tosin, she's actually written a fantastic book. And, you know, and in this book, in Unchained, she kindly writes down the cruise of her life, from how she was a little girl whose innocence was poured out like water to the young adult deceived, ensnared, and lost in the wild. So Tosin tells a compelling story, no holds barred story that points readers to reckless redeeming love of a father who fights fiercely to win a heart and to beautify the most broken places of her life. That's the book. For those that do not know, she's an author and she's a mother, she's a wife, and a very loving human being. And she's joined me live this evening. Thank you so much, Tosin. And you can order her book on Amazon. Let me just put it out there, but I'll still say it again at the end of the show. But thank you so much again, Tosin, for joining me this evening.
You're welcome.
All right. So when I wanted to have this conversation of the concept of being in love, of course, the reason we're talking about things around relationship and friendship and all of that is because most times people just feel like, you know, I'm in a relationship and they have so many high expectations when it comes to relationships, right? And when you now go into those relationships, you end up some people end up disappointed. Some people like, this is what I expected, and all of that. And you don't hear statements like, I used to be in love with the person, but we fell out of love. So I'm just wondering. So it got me thinking, you know, brought the question about the concept of being in love. Really, you know, what is this concept of being in love? And truly, can a human being, you know, have the capacity to truly be in love with somebody else?
Yeah, okay, so thank you so much again, Uwa, for having me, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I think we're going to have lots of fun, you know, talking about love. So,
yeah,
you know, it's very interesting because being in love seems to have like so many different interpretations. Like it means different things to different people. And that's why people have various experiences when it comes to love. You know, so for some people, being in love just means, you know, just feeling lovey-dovey, just feeling like you can't live without that person, you can't eat without that person, you know, you're constantly thinking about this person, you are just head over heels, you're so emotionally attached to this person. For some other people, being in love means, you know, I've just found someone that I can, you know, pour all my love on. I can just give and give and give to this person just because I love them so much. Yet, for some other people, being in love means I'm just going to be receiving and receiving and receiving. It means somebody's going to buy me nice clothes, nice shoes. They're going to take me on vacations. My needs are going to be taken care of. Like I'm just sorted. So being in love actually means different things to different people. you know but when you look at the rate at which people get heartbroken, you then want to start asking questions. When you look at the rate at which people get divorced, you want to start asking questions and saying, okay, wait a minute, what is this love thing about? How is it? Because how is it that people who were so in love then got to a place where they actually cannot stand the sight of each other? How do people get to that point? So is it that they were never in love? Because I mean, so we actually need to begin to ask ourselves questions. What exactly does it mean to be in love? And I love what you shared with us already tonight on.
Tosi, I like.
Yeah.
Oh, sugar.
No, you're back.
Network today.
You're good. You're back.
Network. Network is messy. Oh, shoot. Okay. So we're going to try this again.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Tosi, I lost you for a minute.
Okay, I have you back
Can
now.
you hear me?
Yes, I can
this
hear
network,
you.
we have to speak some tongues on the network.
I know.
Okay, I was going to ask you, Tosi, I was going to ask you that, I mean, it's being in love relative? Because when you say being in love means different things to different people. In my head, I'm wondering, shouldn't love be selfless? Shouldn't we have a universal concept of what love is in itself? You understand? So that it means that you're no longer thinking about me, you're thinking about I'm thinking about the next person. When I say I'm in love with the person, it means it is sacrificial. I mean, shouldn't there be some general what's it called, quantification for that concept of being in love, that once you see it, you would know that this person or the people are truly in love with each other?
Yeah, you are absolutely right, but I just felt like it was so important for us to lay that foundation, because even though we know that love, should be sacrificial, it's a decision. The truth is that people, as it is today, the reality is that people have different ideas of what love means. And I just wanted to put that out there, that, hey, love means different things to different people. But when we then begin to analyze why people's relationships keep failing, or why the divorce rates continue to, be on the increase, then we want to backtrack and say, what exactly is love? What exactly is love? Right? So we're sort of working backwards from the things that we see prevalent in society. And then you begin to see that, okay, there are certain ingredients that should have been there in the first place. There are certain mindsets that people have about love that are actually faulty. And then people go into relationships with faulty mindsets of what love is. And then their relationships crash, or their marriage crashes, years down the line. And so I love that you have already itemized some of the things that that true love represents.
Absolutely.
Because when you hear the word being in love, it definitely goes beyond having feelings of attachment to that person. Being in love comes with responsibility. And that's the part that a lot of people don't accept, because they feel like being in love is all about feelings. But no, being in love comes with a lot of responsibility. It really does mean openness and trust. It really does mean sacrifice. It really does mean sometimes just allowing the other person's need come first. And I'm not talking about being a doormat and allowing yourself to be, walked over. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Because there's actually a thin line. There's actually a thin line between that and being a doormat, being sacrificial and being a doormat. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a thin line, and I think we'll get to that because that's actually very valid, right? But being in love essentially comes with sacrifice. It is a decision. Being in love, I must say again, it's not just about your feelings, right? Being in love is being committed. It's saying it's being able to see that the person you're in love with is by no means perfect. Is being able to see that, hey, this person is going to have shortcomings. This person will not always live up to my expectations. This person will not always make me happy. This person will not always be able to meet my needs. Heck, they can't even always make themselves happy. So they can't even always make
Absolutely.
me happy. If they can't always make themselves happy, how can they make me happy all the time? So it means recognizing not just the good, beautiful parts, but also the parts that are not always going to be so palatable, and saying, hey, regardless, I'm going to be here. I'm going to work at this thing. I'm going to be committed. I'm going to forgive.
Wow.
Because there is,
Wow, Tosi.
it is impossible
This
to
is
talk
actually
about this.
hard.
It's hard. It's hard work. That's why I said it's a
It's
lot of
hard.
responsibility to say you're in love, because you can't even separate love and forgiveness. When
Tosin,
people
this
are
part
in
is
love,
hard.
they feel like this
It's
person
hard.
can do me no harm. They feel like, man, this is my knight in shining armor, the love of my life, the most perfect person in the whole world. But true love, being in love, you're gonna have to be able to forgive, and that is hard
Wow.
work, because it's easy to say it, but hey, if you've ever been hurt, you know that it's not the easiest thing to look that person in the eye and still say, hey, I love you, and because I love you, well, we're going to
And I
walk
forgive
through
you.
this. We're going to, yeah, I forgive you, and we're going to walk through this process together. Being in love, like you said, is also contentment. It's also being able to come to a point where you say, hey, this is where I am, this is the person that I am with, so regardless of what I see outside, because hey, when you're in love, as you go along, as the months roll by and the years roll by, you begin to see, now you see people outside, people that you've never seen before, and you might now almost be
Start to catch
just
some
falling
feelings.
into that comparison trap, like but hey, this is where you have pitched your tent. So being in love also means being able to remove your eyes from other people, and from from what other people may have to offer you, and being able to say, hey, this is where I am, this is the decision I've made, this is the person I have decided I want to build my life with, and that takes responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tosin, I really love what you're saying. Thank you again, Ahu Nuga. I think Awu Nuga Temi. She says she's here for this very sweet topic. Thank you, Temi. And she says you can't separate love and forgiveness. Absolutely. I mean, Tosin, you're really touching a very, very sensitive spot for me, because so is it possible that the reason we're having high rates of divorce, high rates of what's it called, infidelity in marriage, cheating, and all of that, is that we are married to people that we are not in love with? Because if you are in love with someone, I think you would be able to stay faithful, stay committed, stay true. Even you, like you rightly said, you'll be able to remove your eyes, even when the
Yes.
temptation is actually glaring outside, because you say you are in love with this person, you are able to commit. So is this possible that we're having a lot of marriages and relationships that are loveless? They are not, I mean, they don't even understand that concept of being in love. They're just married.
Yes. Oh, that is a fantastic point that you have, just raised. When it comes to infidelity, one of the major problems that I have seen is that couples are not open and honest with each other. And one of the most important ingredients of being in love is openness and trust. Because you see,
Absolutely.
there's something about openness and trust that garrisons you and sort of just provides guides you, honestly, from falling into the trap of cheating or of infidelity. And I'll give you an example. every time I go somewhere, I meet some guy or something,
Oh,
like
sweet.
I'm not even having feelings for this guy. I just think he's a nice guy, or he's this guy is cute or whatever. And maybe for whatever reason I had to engage in a conversation with that guy. When I come home, I tell my husband, not because I'm trying to warn him that, hey, I'm going to cheat or met a fine guy today. No, I'm just leaving. I'm just leaving that communication channel open.
Hmm.
And I am
Hmm.
I'm sort of putting myself in a place where I can be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, when people cannot be open and honest with each other, they would have gone too far, way too far, and then they will fall. And it's not because they intended to. So I don't necessarily believe that everyone who cheats is an evil person, or they did not love their wife or they didn't love their husband. But something was missing in that marriage, and it was open communication and trust. And that's something that everyone needs to work on, to and humility to also accept that, hey, I'm human and I have the tendency, because I'm human, to make a mistake. I have the tendency to fall because I'm human. It's not because I don't love my wife or because I don't love my husband or because I don't love the person with whom I'm in a relationship, but because I'm human and I'm frail, right? And I must be
Mm-hmm.
humble enough to accept that fact that I am human.
Hmm.
So how can I protect myself and protect my relationship from crisis? It's by being open and honest. It's by being able to
Hmm.
also say when things are not going so great in your relationship or even in your marriage, to be able to say, hey, babe, I feel like we're drifting apart. Because for women, for instance, that's one of the things with them.
Hmm.
Like they just feel like that their husbands maybe are not emotionally available to them, and then they meet someone who is just there listening to their rants every day, and then they get emotionally attached. But then they never even spoke to
Mm-hmm.
their husbands. They never even really tried to have that conversation or see how they could, just work around things. That's where openness and
Yeah.
communication, you must be willing to talk. You must be willing to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, babe. I'm feeling abandoned. Or I'm feeling like, hey, and I'm human,
No,
oh, babe. We need to be
but
open.
Tosin, I hear you loud and clear. And there are relationships right now that
Mhm.
they've gotten to that point where they're not even willing to have that conversation because they just, I think, where you get to a stage where you feel like, what, I think to that extent, I've tried everything possible and it seems like this is not working. So I am not even willing to have that conversation. There are
Mhm.
people on that level. They're not even ready to have the
Absolutely.
conversation. I'd rather leave it the way it is. So I am just thinking in my head, do human beings even have the capacity to be in love with another human being? Like truly be in love? Do we as humans have that capacity to truly love another human being?
I
Or
think we
is it, are we
do.
just asking for too much when we say we need someone to be truly in love with us? Because if you look at the conditions that being in love requires, I do not see many people exhibiting that. Even the
Yeah.
people that claim to love you, they are loving you from a selfish point for
Mhm.
what they stand to gain. So it is even difficult for you to decipher who truly loves me for me or loves me because maybe I give him good sex or because I give him what's it called? I give him good food or because we just look good together. We look good for the cameras. So what exactly? Or he's in it for maybe what I have. As a person.
Mhm.
How would you tell that this person truly has the capacity to fall in love? Do humans even have that capacity to really love another human being?
Wow, man, this is a very deep question. It is so deep, but I love it. I love it because it forces people to think. It forces people to become introspective. You know, it's definitely possible for human beings to fall in love. However, like I said, falling in love is easy, but staying in love is where
Hmm.
the work is. I
That's it.
believe, yeah, staying in love is where the work is. I believe it's absolutely possible for human beings to stay in love, but
Hmm.
it requires work. It requires work. And the question is, how many people are really willing to put in the work? How many people are willing to apply themselves even to the knowledge that they need to sustain their relationships and marriage? How many people are willing to really commit to the process of learning how to be in love? Because it doesn't necessarily come naturally to human beings, right? Human beings naturally are selfish. Human beings naturally will have a motive. Human beings
Absolutely.
naturally, you get this, right? So these things you apply yourself to knowledge. These days you see people spending so much on their wedding ceremonies and just making sure that they're on the biggest blogs when they're getting married and stuff like that. And it's cool, it's really cool. But how many people actually apply themselves to knowledge to the extent where they say, you know what, some of this money I'm actually going to go put it into me and my fiance going to get proper premarital counseling. I'm not talking about the one that they do in your church for 6 weeks, that is just a compulsory something. I'm talking about professional marital.
Professionals.
Yeah, by trained marriage counselors. Because honestly, I mean, I'm a lover of God, but to be honest, not every pastor is a marriage counselor. That's the truth. So how many people are willing to apply themselves
Absolutely.
to knowledge? There's also that part. Once you realize that this thing doesn't come naturally to me, it doesn't come naturally to human beings, you've got to make up for that gap. Right? So it's also part of the process. And that's just one thing. Because in the process of learning about what it really means to love a person, what it really means to stay in love, you will then be able to, benchmark yourself. You will then be able to assess yourself and say, okay, where am I? Am I able to really give love to this person? Am I able to, really be the kind of partner that this person needs? You then begin to see the gaps and see where you can improve and
Absolutely.
yeah. So these things are absolutely important. I feel like, yes, it's possible for human beings to definitely be in love and stay in love. They have the capacity, but it takes work and it takes willingness and commitment. It takes willingness and commitment. That's it, to be honest.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, we are having an amazing already. And we've not even gone halfway. Thank you to Chinyere. I think she says open communication and trust. Yes. So I hear a lot of young people, going into relationships. So, oh, I'm in love. And a few years down the line, there's problem. I thought I loved him. I was infatuated. I was this, I was that. I was manipulated to think. So I thought to myself, I said, we say that every person is born with they call it tabula, right? Is it the Latin word or whatever it is that it's called? Tabula rasa.
Yes.
We are all born with clean slate. Everything that we know today, we are programmed, right?
Yes.
It's the programming that comes to us that we know. So if we are programmed to think that we love a certain person, is it possible that even in the concept of thinking we are in love, human beings can truly manipulate you to think that you're in love? Because where you see cases of young people saying, oh, they're in love, and tomorrow they're out of love, next tomorrow they're back in love, how are you able to differentiate that this is not someone just trying to play tricks on my mind, making me feel like I love the person? Because I have people manipulate you to think that you are in love with them, right? But it is just a higher level of manipulative, what's it called, mechanism or whatever it is that they use. So how are you able to differentiate genuine love, that this person genuinely loves me, or the ones that are actually there just to manipulate you to think that you are in love to get whatever it is that they want?
Okay, I love it. It's such a fantastic question. And like you said, many people really do fall into this trap. But the first thing that I would say here is, if a person does get manipulated into thinking that they're in love with someone else, it is a very big pointer to the fact that that person in herself or in himself, as the case may be, is in a place where they are not whole. If you can be manipulated into thinking that you're in love with somebody else, you're not in a wholesome state yourself. Because you see, once,
Absolutely.
and that's the thing, it's a very risky adventure to fall in love when you have not come into a place of self-love, self-acceptance, when you have not come into your own, your into a place of identity and just
Wow.
being convinced about who you are. Because you see, the moment you are whole, you're in a place where you are stable, you are grounded in yourself, grounded in your identity. You can smell a phony easily. That is the truth.
Absolutely.
You will repel. There are certain kinds of people that will come your way. Your spirit will repel them because you know who you are. You know what you want. It's so powerful, these things. It's so powerful, Uwa, to see that there are people who every single time they continue to attract the same kinds of people. They continue to attract abusers. They continue to attract people who take them for granted. They continue to attract people who are emotionally unavailable. They continue to attract people who manipulate them. It's because that's what they give off. That is the aroma that they are producing. That's the fragrance that is coming forth from them. And
And
that's why they
that's what they are
continue to attract
attracting.
people like that. So you see, it first begins with yourself.
Absolutely.
You have no business trying to find out whether someone else is manipulating you. If you are confused, you need to begin to look inwards and begin to say, hey, why am I feeling this way? Why is somebody manipulating me? Who am I in the first place? So people need to come into a state of self-awareness. You need to begin to deal with the baggage in your life that makes you feel so needy, that makes you appear so needy that someone can come into your life and manipulate you and play mind games with you. If you're whole, you will be able to tell when someone is trying to play mind games with you. You will know. You'll be like, no, this is not it.
This is so deep because I know someone currently going through this right now, and it is almost like every relationship that comes her way, it is beating upon beating. So in her mind now, she has programmed that if a man doesn't beat her, he does not love her, is not in love
Look
with
at
her.
that.
And this
Yeah.
is what we see all the time. So I'm trying to think, wrap it in my head. How do I get that kind of a person to begin to see who she is? Because if you are in love, you must first of all be in love with self before you
Yeah.
can love another human being. I mean, that's what I hear you say. You must
Mm-hmm.
love yourself. You must be in love with yourself before you have the capacity to give love. You cannot give what you do not have.
Yeah.
So if you love yourself, will you deliberately carry a boxing glove and punch your eyes until it turns purple or pink? You know?
Exactly.
You say. So
Exactly.
tell me, how do we even begin to break this concept, of self-love to people, that you need to love yourself before you have the capacity to even be in love with somebody else?
Yes. You know what, Uwa? I'm not going to even try to sugarcoat this. A lot of people are dealing with self-hate.
Hmm.
A lot of people look in the mirror and they absolutely do not like who they see. Yet they want someone else to love them. And this is something that people need to really begin to pay attention to. And it's hard for people to admit these things. It's hard for people to admit that they don't love themselves. It's hard for people to admit that they look in the mirror and they feel disgusted by who they see. It's hard for people to admit
Absolutely.
that they feel less than other people. But that's what we see. People feel like they're not as good as XYZ, they're not as pretty as A, they're not as talented as B, for different reasons. And what I have found is that so many people carry baggage, baggage from as far back as when they were children, that they
Wow.
don't even remember anymore. They cannot connect what happened in their childhood with what they're experiencing now. And so they don't know that it's a lot of the things that happened as far back as 30 years ago is what is still playing out in their lives because they have never dealt with it. There are people who never received love from their parents. There are people who never in their lives, for once growing up, heard the words, I love you. There are people whose fathers, who grew up seeing their fathers beat their mothers. And that's what they've always known. And their mothers stayed in the marriage. And their mothers raised 5 children in an abusive marriage. And all the 5 children are seemingly doing okay. So they feel like, okay, well, it must not be that bad if a man is beating me. It's the mindset that has been planted since they were kids. People have history of, sexual molestation. So many people. I always say that I know more people who have been molested at least once in their lives than those who have not experienced any sexual molestation. I actually know more people who have been molested than people who have not been molested. Right? And I have my own story too. And people grow up with these things. People grow up with these baggages. People grow up with these mindsets. People have been called names growing up by their parents, by their uncles, by their aunties. You are a stupid girl. You are olodo. You don't know anything. You are dull. You are dumb. You are fat. You are too thin. Your head is too big. You are not smart. And people have taken on this label. They have lived it out all their lives, but they don't know that it is these things that happened in their childhood that is affecting them now. So they have grown into these women who love themselves. They don't even like themselves.
No, they don't even love. So how can you even be in love with somebody else? You would continue to attract the wrong sets of people
if you don't deal with these things. So that's where we need to start from. People need to begin to ask themselves.
Let me take Morenike Basharu's comment. Thank you. Absolutely. Let me take Tosin, let me just take a comment. It says, Morenike, thank you for joining. It says, lack of understanding. The true definition of love makes people use the word love to describe infatuation, fondness, or obsession. And I mean, that's because you know why this topic, it's a bit cracking in my head. Because if you understand what love truly means, you won't use that word carelessly to say you love someone. You want to get into a girl's pants or a woman's pants, you tell her, I love you because you want to get into her pants. But what it registers in her head is the true definition of love. Then when you are done with whatever it is that you have done, you let her go. At the end of the day, she's feeling used, and she does not. So I am begging people, I am begging you out there, whoever you are loosely, because when you say you are in love with someone, there are some things that can never mix with love. Do you get my point, Tosin? And this is where I see a lot of problem because people just want to take advantage of a girl or a guy. They use that word loosely, say, I'm in love with you. And you are not in love. You just want something, right? And if people truly understand what love means, maybe we'll begin to correct, some of the problems we are seeing today, the challenges we're seeing today, even with relationship, with marriages, with families, right? If a young girl has not experienced love from her home, for instance, how can a man outside give her love when the father figure that she has as a girl has not shown her what true love means, So she will continue to seek validation from outside all the time, So it's actually a very, very skewed, what's it called? Lopsided definition or something like it's just in my head. So when I sat down and I thought about it, we're having high rates of divorce. We're having high rates of infidelity. If you say you love someone, you should be committed to that person. If you say you love someone, the person should be able to trust you. Both of you should be interdependent. You shouldn't be depending on other people for some level of happiness. I find some people, they are happier in their home. I mean, outside of their home than when they come back home. Then why are you in a relationship with that person? So Tosi, help me understand this thing.
So, like I was saying, the first thing that people need to begin to ask themselves is, can I start with myself? Can I even leave this love matter, this someone else loving me and treating me right? Can I just put it aside just for a moment and focus on me?
Yeah.
So that I can begin to attract and give also the kind of love that is truly lasting. And so one of the things that people need to begin to do is to sit themselves down, have a conference call with yourself and ask yourself questions. Get food, get drink, sit down, balance well, get a notepad or a journal and say, today, I want to meet myself. I want to have a meeting with myself. And then begin to ask yourself questions. What do I believe about myself? I'm not talking about the confessions that your pastor has
Words of
given you,
affirmation.
or words of affirmation that you read in that book, that you say every morning that you don't even believe. But you say regardless. No, be honest with yourself. It's just you and yourself that are in that meeting. What do you currently believe about yourself? You will find all manner of things coming out. What do you believe about yourself? If you feel like you are not smart, write it there. If you feel like you are ugly, write it there. If you feel like you are too fat, write it there. If you feel like you are incapable of giving love and receiving love, write it there. Write everything that you believe about yourself. You will be stunned at the things you will see. And then when you write those things out, begin to then ask yourself, where did I get these ideas from? Who told me that this is who I am? How did I get to this point where I believe all these things about myself? How did I arrive at these conclusions about myself? And allow yourself go back memory lane. This thing I'm telling you, it's a very painful exercise for a lot of people, because you're going to be opening a can of worms. You might be going to places that you have sworn that you will never go into again, like you have shut it down in your memory. But for the sake of yourself and for the sake of building a healthy union, relationship, for the sake of building love that will truly last, you must come into that place of wholeness. And you can never come into that place of wholeness unless you open up to yourself
and answer those questions. Tosin, there's another question that comes to mind that someone said to me. I can't remember. I think he's one of my coaches. He said, if I introduced to you, would you fall in love with you? Like if I introduce you to you, would you fall in love with you? If the answer is yes, then it means you're in a good place. But if the answer is no, that you are not even going to be able to fall in love with yourself, then there's a problem. I was going to say, Tosin, because social media, right? Social media has brought in a new wave, that help, that you see this thing you talked about, where you begin to look at other people and you compare yourselves, compare yourself with other people and all of that. And you compare the love on social media, because it's been done in a certain way. How is social media affecting this concept of being in love? How is it disrupting things, or how is it making it better, or is making things, a bit worse or shallow? It's watering down the concept of love.
Man, this one is big. It is big because it is amazing how social media is shaping people's definition of love. You have people literally building their lives, their own real lives, on the fake lives of other people, or on the half-truth of other people. You have people questioning their own quality relationship just because they see something on Instagram. And then they bring it into their relationship and they start acting funny. Because some people have gone to smile for the camera and they have posted pictures and people have commented couple goals, cute babies loading, and all of that. And they're taking trips, they're going to Hawaii, and you're seeing all these pictures, and the person you're in a relationship with right now, maybe he can only take you to Calabar for now. Or Ghana.
Obudu.
Maybe you know Obudu right now. But he's a great guy. He's got a great heart. He's hardworking. And he's
Mm-hmm.
doing well. But no, because you have seen something on Instagram, it has become, it's the same reason why people
The
clear
standard.
their bank accounts to go do a wedding. Because did you see what that do you know who was the designer of that wedding dress? Mine too has to be like that. Social media, I mean, there's a lot to learn from social media, but we really need to know where to draw the lines. We really, really, really need to know where to draw the lines. Otherwise, you're going to just fall into such a trap that you have no business being in. Honestly, some of us, for this stage that we are in, as far as our emotional health is concerned, some of us need to go unfollow certain pages on social media because it's putting you in trouble. Honestly,
Ah,
you have to be honest
you need
with
to say that
yourself.
again.
I'm telling you. You have to be honest with yourself. If you feel like, man, my heart can't take it. Like for some people, it's not even just comparison, it's jealousy. Like you be scrolling like that, you just be so jealous, and your heart is boiling, and you're like, God, why is this not me? Why is this not me? How can somebody be fine like this? Look at Uwa, see what she wears every day. See how pretty her makeup is every single day. See how her skin is glowing. See how her husband is really taking care of her and just spending so much money on her. And you are just comparing and comparing. You need to go and unfollow. If it's causing you mental, if it's triggering something, I'm serious. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to be honest with ourselves. Because social media is big. It can land you in trouble. It really can. It really can. And I feel like it's gotten so bad, it's dictating a lot of things that people do. It is leading people rather than their own hearts leading them.
Absolutely.
Rather than the
Absolutely. I
truth
think
leading them.
leading them.
Yeah.
You know, so as we wrap up the conversation, because time just flew by.
I know it just went by like that.
As we wrap up the conversation, if you were to help someone out there that is, wondering, do I have the capacity to love? And, am I, how can I really find true love and be in love with the person? Because you mentioned something very pertinent when we started the conversation about staying in love. Staying in love is key. It's easy for you to fall in love, but stay in love, because I keep on saying this, that why do we have couples that have been married 10 years, 15 years, almost like it becomes a see finish situation where
Yeah.
nobody's respecting each other? The way the thing was doing you in the body when you first started and all of that, all that doings have disappeared. It's no longer happening that way. It's almost like now some couple actually find their company irritating to each other. They are no longer in that
Mhm.
space where
Yeah.
they want to be in each other's company, right?
Yeah.
So the concept of being in love, especially for people that have been in relationship for a long time, how do they continue to stay in that love, rekindle that love, and understand that being in love is beyond feeling, like you had mentioned earlier? How do they, what are the things that they need to begin to do, to build back and stay in that love relationship?
So one of the most important things, and I feel like this one is really talked about, but we don't do enough of it in our relationships, to be honest. And one of those things is communication. That
Mm,
open and honest communication must continue to happen. The thing is, people get so busy, and it's easy for people to fall into this trap. Like, no matter how good a person you are, no matter how great a person you are, no matter how loving you are as a person, once you have been in a relationship with someone for quite a bit, there is every tendency, let's be honest, there's every tendency to just get busy with life, get busy raising your kids, get busy with work and career, get busy just trying to be your own person, that
mm-hmm.
you sort of just begin to drift away from your spouse. But I feel like if we can truly get to a point where we value communication, where when we begin to feel that drifting, we're able to just backtrack and say, hey, I feel like our communication is, you know, let's let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. People are married for years and their communication is reduced to they live in the same house, they eat together, they do everything, they see each other every day, but they're not really talking. They're not really communicating. They're
They are
talking,
talking,
but
but they're
they're
not
not
communicating.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about every other thing going on. They're talking about the kids. They're talking about the house rent. They're talking about the building project. They're talking about the investment. They're talking about their in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not talking about themselves. They're not communicating.
Each other.
So we need to begin to
Mm-hmm.
prioritize communication again. If communication goes wrong, every other thing follows. Let me just say, everything follows in the direction of your communication in your relationship.
Absolutely.
Everything
I mean,
follows in the direction or lack of it.
of communication. Absolutely. When you're just talking now, I cannot help but mention something that I observed yesterday when I was watching they just crowned the new Olu of Wari. I was
Yes.
watching, I was watching that coronation, and I could feel as an outsider, and it was not just me, because when I called a few people, they said they saw it. When a man is in love with his wife, there are so many things that happens. I mean, you could see the way he was talking with his eyes with his wife, like, I got you. And this is what every woman needs. This is what every relationship needs. That ability to say, you know what, I can bank on you. If I say that I am in love with you, it's beyond just saying it because I feel like saying it. It is that feeling, that confidence you carry. So you will wear your crown really, really high when you have that confidence that this guy got me any day, anytime. So when I was watching the Oluwa, the way he spoke with his wife, with his eyes, I could feel that this guy, even in a position of power and authority, don't worry, you will always be by my side. That assurance, that commitment that nothing can change the way we feel, or the way I feel about you, or the way we feel for each other. Nothing can come in between that. That is what I think is lacking, that is making a lot of homes break these days. But you were going to say something.
I was going to say yes about the Oluwabori and his wife, but you would also find, and this is where you begin to see also that this love thing is really partnership. We haven't seen the behind the scenes of their life. I mean, I know a few things about his wife. I know people who know her, so I know a few things. But so I also know that she has stood for him. I also know that he has invested a whole lot into that marriage. I know that she has provided him with a lot of spiritual support, and she has stood her ground as far as that marriage and relationship is concerned. And she has been there for him, even when it wasn't looking like, the throne was anywhere near. Right? So a man also looks at that and says, this woman. So they have history. So it's two ways. And I believe that, one of the reasons she would also have been able to support him like that is because she has seen that, man, this man is a good man. So you see, it's so intertwined. Everyone has to be playing their own part. It's
their role. Thank you, Tosin.
Everyone has to be playing their own parts to make this thing work. It really does take two to tango. Honestly, relationship and love is the one thing where it takes more than one person to make it work. No matter how sweet and beautiful and fantastic you are, if the other person is not willing to commit, it's going to be extremely hard. It really does take two.
Wow. Absolutely. Oh my God, we've run out of time. But thank you again, Tosin. Can you quickly tell us about your book and where we can find it,
Oh, sure. Okay, so my book is called Unchained. My journey from broken to beautified. Unchained really is is about my life story. So I couldn't even go into any of the details of my life journey, but you will find that there. I talk about everything in my life, from being sexually molested to, just being in a cycle of failed relationships, to searching for meaning and love in all of the wrong places, and to eventually being able to discover what was wrong, and just, my journey to healing, and to how my life was just dramatically turned around for good, of course, by God. And He's the one that I owe, all of the beauty that is in my life today. So on Change, you can get on my website, www.tosinsunny.com. You can purchase it from there. You can also get it from Roving Heights. And you'll also find that link on my website as well. You can get it on Amazon, the paperback copy, and on Amazon Kindle if you'd rather read the e-copy. That's it. Thank you, Ua, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Marianne says everyone has a part to play, or everyone has to play their part. Being in love is not one-sided. Absolutely. And thank you to everyone that joined. I mean, they stayed on to watch. And thank you, Tosi. I think we have to do this again. We have to do it.
Yeah, I have some of my lovely friends here. Temi, Lauren, Awunuga, Marianne as well, Nkechi. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you, Morenike. She's my friend as well. I don't know the other people. They didn't say hi, so we can't tell who is watching, except they wrote something on the comment section. Exactly. But thank you again. I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. I just want to leave our audience tonight with the fact that, I mean, Tosin has said a lot. If you know anyone that has to hear this, the link will be uploaded almost immediately. Just share the link. It's important for people to hear, because when we say, oh, we're in love, it is one thing to be in love. It is another thing to stay in love. I love that, what you said about staying in love. And it is the staying part that is actually the toughest part, because if you are in love, I mean, it's okay. I just fell in love at first sight. But how do you keep that love going, even when you do not feel like it? Because there are some days you're just not in the mood, but you have to still be, show love to that person because of the commitment required in being in love. Thank you so much, Tosin. I think we've had an amazing time with you. All right, so yeah, it was so much fun, and the time just flew by.
Like that.
Just like that. Well, we have to do a part 2. I mean, I always love great conversation. And here again on Conversations and with Uwa, it is always a fun conversation. We come to you live every Sunday at 8 p.m. We talk about everything. And it's very important to me that we are not talking to everyone, but we are looking for that one person that their lives will be transformed as a result of what we're doing here. So if you love anyone and you know anyone going through something that needs to hear tonight's broadcast, please remember to share the link. And God bless you all, and see you again next week, Sunday. Enjoy.